What if everything you've been taught about success, about influence, about how to gain power, is a lie? What if the very act of trying to be seen, to be heard, to be validated, is precisely what condemns you to perpetual weakness? You're exhausted, aren't you? Drained by the relentless performance, the endless need to explain, to justify, to prove your worth to a world that seems insatiable. You chase validation, you seek approval, you perform intricate dances for attention. And what do you get in return? More demands, more emptiness, and a gnawing sense that you are losing yourself, piece by agonizing piece. This isn't just a cycle, it's a suffocating trap. And it is precisely why most people will never grasp true power. This is Skyward Synergy, and today, we're dissecting a terrifying kind of power, an undeniable force that doesn't speak, doesn't perform, and doesn't even try to be seen. It simply exists. And in its profound, chilling silence, it commands everything. This is not a philosophy for the weak or the faint-hearted. It is a brutal, unapologetic truth for those who refuse to be ruled, for those ready to claim mastery over their own existence. This is Machiavelli's law of the void. When you offer them nothing, they give you everything. A stark, almost blasphemous principle in our hyper-connected, hyper-transparent world. Think about it. Every fiber of modern society screams at you to be open, to be expressive, to share, to connect, to engage. We are conditioned from birth to believe that the path to influence, to acceptance, to love, is paved with constant output, with readily available information, with eager reciprocation. But what if that very openness, that very eagerness to fill every conversational pause, every emotional space, is precisely what disarms, disempowers, and ultimately diminishes you? What if your constant availability makes you cheap? This isn't just a theoretical concept. It is the hidden mechanism behind every profound display of influence, every silent victory in boardrooms, in complex personal relationships, and in the relentless covert wars of human will that play out every single day. Consider for a moment the profound, almost terrifying impact of silence as the ultimate, unassailable weapon. When you strategically cease to explain yourself, when you deliberately withdraw your incessant need to be understood, when you refuse to fill every gap with your own words or emotions, you create an undeniable magnetic vacuum. And human nature, in its deepest, most primal wiring, abhors a vacuum. People will rush to fill that emptiness. They will project their own interpretations, their own desires, their own fears, and their own fervent attempts to engage you, to understand you, onto that blank canvas you've become. This isn't about being rude, or aloof, or simply ignoring people. This is about calculated strategic restraint. It's about a brutal understanding that your constant availability, your transparent eagerness to reveal all, almost always diminishes your perceived value, your power, and your mystique. When you lay all your cards on the table, when you give everything away, there is nothing left for them to desire, nothing left to speculate about, nothing left to earn. But when you offer nothing, when you become the unreadable, the unyielding, the profoundly silent presence, you become the ultimate mystery, the coveted prize, the unquantifiable, irresistible force. Are you ready to command that level of attention? But why then is this so agonizingly difficult for us to implement? Why do we, with such predictable desperation, constantly gravitate towards seeking approval? The answer is brutally simple, yet devastatingly effective in its hold over us. It lies deep within our primal evolutionary need for belonging, for acceptance, for social cohesion. We are by our very nature social creatures, hardwired over millennia to seek validation from our tribe. And in the modern age, this translates into an insidious addiction to external affirmation, amplified by every like, every comment, every fleeting moment of digital attention. Yet, it is precisely this desperate, insatiable need for validation that utterly, systematically destroys authority. Every single time you explain yourself when no explanation is due, every single time you justify your decisions to those who lack the standing, the wisdom, or the right to question them, every single time you perform for the fleeting applause of others, you diminish your own gravitas. You erode your own presence. You hand your power over, peace by agonizing, excruciating peace, to the very people you wish to influence, to command, or to lead. This desperate scramble for external approval makes you utterly predictable, frighteningly controllable, and ultimately, fatally weak. Your true authority does not, cannot, and will never come from their affirmation. It erupts from your absolute, unshakable internal certainty. This is the bedrock of untouchable power. So, what does it truly, profoundly mean to be untouchable in this chaotic, demanding world? Let me be brutally clear. It is not about acting powerful. It is about being untouchable. There is a vast, unbridgeable chasm between the two, a gulf that separates the pretender from the true master. Acting powerful is a performance, a meticulously constructed facade designed solely to impress, to intimidate, to elicit a desired reaction. It relies entirely on external cues, on expensive suits, on manufactured charisma, on a loud voice, on theatrical displays of dominance. It is inherently fragile, easily shattered by the slightest doubt, the first sign of opposition, or the simple passage of time. It is a house built on sand, vulnerable to every passing storm. Being untouchable, however, is an internal state, an elemental force originating from within. It is an unshakable self-possession, a profound, almost divine indifference to the opinions, the reactions, the praise, or the condemnation of others. It means your resolve is so absolute, your internal compass so perfectly calibrated, that you are not swayed by their fawning praise, nor are you crushed by their vitriolic criticism. You are impervious. External forces become not just irrelevant, but utterly powerless against you. You operate from a core of radical self-sufficiency, a profound internal void that requires absolutely nothing, no validation, no input, no energy from the outside world. This, and only this, is where true, terrifying power resides. An unwavering, omnipresent force that requires no acknowledgement to exist, no validation to thrive, and no applause to endure. This is the quiet, terrifying strength that leaves everyone else scrambling. Now truly, deeply imagine this for a moment. A world where you don't chase anything, Ace. A world where you have utterly extinguished the desperate need to be liked, to be understood, to be seen, to be validated. What would you become in such a world? You would transform into the most dangerous, the most compelling, the most unassailable force in any room, in any negotiation, in any relationship. Why? Because the individual who offers nothing, no pleas for attention, no concessions out of fear, no desperate attempts at connection, no emotional leverage, is the one who holds all the cards. They cannot manipulate you with promises of acceptance because you do not crave it. They cannot wound you with rejection because you do not seek their approval. They cannot leverage your emotions because you have none to give them in that context. This individual becomes an enigma, an impenetrable fortress, a profound void that every single person around them instinctively, desperately rushes to fill. They project their own hopes, their own fears, their own unfulfilled desires onto this blank, unyielding canvas you've become. And in doing so, they themselves grant you immense, almost supernatural influence. Their need to understand you becomes your ultimate leverage. This is the secret of the silent king, the unmoving mountain. Understand this. This is not abstract philosophy. This is not some esoteric theory confined to dusty books. This is precisely how power functions, how it is seized and maintained in the raw, unvarnished, brutal arenas of life, in high-stakes corporate battles, in intricate personal relationships, in political maneuvering, and in the silent psychological wars of influence waged every single relentless day. If you have ever felt utterly exhausted by performing, by explaining, by begging to be understood, by chasing acceptance, then let this be your definitive, urgent wake-up call. Stop. Immediately. Stop hemorrhaging your power away. Stop desperately filling the void with your neediness, your explanations, your justifications. Embrace the strategic emptiness. Machiavelli did not write for kings who already held their thrones. He wrote for those who understood the brutal truth of power, for those who refused to be ruled, for those who grasped that true, unassailable command emerges not from what you project, but from what you strategically, deliberately, terrifyingly withhold. Your power isn't in your words, your actions, or your desperate efforts to connect. It's in your profound, unyielding silence. It's in your strategic, calculated absence. It's in your terrifying magnetic void. Own it. Master it. Because it is the only way to reclaim everything that has been taken from you, everything you have inadvertently given away. This is the path to true, undeniable freedom and influence. If this message has resonated, if it has triggered a spark of recognition, then this is your moment of decision. Hit that like button to acknowledge this brutal truth. Subscribe to Skyward Synergy now and activate the notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the hidden mechanics of power and human nature. And in the comments below, tell us, what is one area of your life where you will commit to embracing the void, starting today? Share this with someone who needs to hear this urgent message. Your journey to untouchable power begins now. Do not delay.